Hi everyone, Heather here. I thought I would make a video to walk you through my disciplinary literacy strategy instead of writing about it. This one is not something that I came up with. I've actually seen a teacher use this before, and I went online to research it a little bit more. It is called Becoming Thieves, and Thieves is an acronym for a process that asks students to preview writing, and it allows them to steal information before they read. And that title, of course, is something that might engage the students right away by telling them you're going to learn how to become a thief. Now, T stands for title. The first thing students will do is read the title and then predict what the article will be about. Next is the H, which stands for headings. You want them to read through each heading in the article and predict what that has to say about the article, just as they did with the title. I stands for introduction. This is how I would choose to open it up with a group of students. I would have them think of it this way. When you first meet a person, you might shake their hand, they'll probably tell you their name, and you'd learn a little bit about them. This is an introduction, and the same goes for introductions in writing. So what I advise students to do is, if there's an introduction, read it. Okay? Don't skip the introduction, because it usually holds very important information for the rest of the essay or article, what have you. And after they read the intro, they will summarize it, and it will come in handy when they later go to write about the article. Next is the E, and that stands for every first line. Students should read every first sentence after each of the heading in each section. And they want to predict as much as they can about the section of the reading, and they will write down their predictions. Next is the V. Excuse me. The V stands for visuals and vocabulary. Now, there's always a lot of visuals, especially in magazine articles, and students tend to skip over that quite a bit. So we want them to take a few seconds to view any of the pictures, the captions, graphs, or diagrams, and that will reveal more important information than they'll gather just by reading the article, just from the text. If there is a vocab section, students should take a minute to look over those words, the difficult words that the writer or publisher points out, and we want them to recall any background knowledge that they can about these words. Maybe they've seen them before or have never heard of them. We want them to take a minute to analyze it. Next is the E, and this stands for the end of the section questions. Now, I ask the question, are there questions for the reading? Because not all articles will have them. But if there are, then students should read these before they read the article. And it informs them more of the contents of the article, and there's also highlighting some of the important features that they should look for as they read. And finally is the S. The S stands for summarizing, and this is when students will begin to read the article, and after they read each paragraph, they should take a minute to write down a summary of all the information they've gathered. And since they have already stolen quite a bit of information before reading with the thieves strategy, they should try to expand on the ideas that they already thought about and reflect on those a little bit. So that's the thieves strategy. Now it's time to talk as a teacher. To teach this strategy, I would provide each student with a handout that guides them through the steps of thieves, just like I've done in the slides of this video. And I would also take out some of the instructional that I'm providing for my classmates to use as instruction for my students, and to guide them through the strategy as a model, because students will look for the teacher to be able to do the strategy and show them how it's done. So I will guide them through it, and I will model it with probably a very short text to begin with, just so they get the idea. And then, once I get them to do this, I want them to continue it. So it should be a continued practice. For strategies to work efficiently for students, they need to be able to understand how to do it without thinking very much about it. They should have practice in it and be able to do it on their own. But first, what I would do probably 2 or 3 times is I would have students work with a partner, and this will help them locate and summarize all of the significant information in the text, and then we would go over it as a class. Now, this is a very universal design, and it's primarily for nonfiction texts in ELA, because most novels or poetry or essays and things like that don't always have subheadings, they don't always have an introduction, and it's a lot harder to use this specific strategy with longer novels or books. So it's primarily for magazine articles, journal articles, things like that are set up like this. They have that particular style that I'm also teaching students how to use, and introduction, break it up into headings, all of that stuff. So nonfiction in ELA is key here. However, the steps are very easy to understand, and there's only a handful of them. So they can be applied in various content areas. They can be applied with textbooks, articles, essays, and an array of web documents. It just depends on the style of how they are written. And once the students understand this, they can try to use them across content areas and transfer that knowledge, which is something we're looking for. The THIEVES strategy meets numerous state and Common Core learning requirements. Now, I've studied this more. As I said, I've researched this a bit after seeing a teacher use this. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about the standards and the learning requirements that it meets. So I went to the National Council Teachers of English's website, Read, Write, Think. And the next couple of slides are images of some of the learning standards that this strategy can achieve. The following 2 slides are reading and writing standards for 7th grade. And it focuses on having them cite textual evidence, has them try to find central ideas, and as for writing, it offers a model of how you would break it up if you were to structure a text this way, and what background knowledge that you should include in your writing for your readers to better understand what message you're trying to convey. So my conclusion is the Becoming Thieves Literacy Strategy. It asks the right questions, which is something that Nancy Fordham brought up. And she said that the reason so many traditional type response questions do not work is because the teachers don't ask the right questions. They aren't asking the students to learn how to think. They're asking them to find information, and that's not allowing them to really rehearse any sort of mental processes that they would need for comprehension. So these types of strategies ask the right questions. And as I said, we are asking students to gather information about the main idea, and that it's a strategy that suggests them to steal the knowledge before they even begin reading. It's a short preview, but in which they can gain a lot of insight without even getting very far into the text. So that's always a good benefit. It also asks them to recall background knowledge, and it scaffolds their learning prior to reading the text. And as long as they continue this practice, that will only get stronger, and they will be able to scaffold even more knowledge on each time that they do this process. And as I said, it meets numerous learning requirements, and it can be adapted for reading and writing across multiple content areas. And I've included my references on this last slide. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thanks.